Hello and welcome to the Musical Instrument Investigator. Today we're on the website of Gardiner Houlgate auctioneers based in the UK, and we're going to have a look at the continuation of their massive guitar and musical instrument sale. If you haven't seen any of the other videos, then Gardiner Houlgate like to kind of do multiple auctions at the same time, so there are 5 here in total. What we're going to look at today is this kind of acoustic guitar part of the auction, and then the general musical instrument part. This acoustic part is like so small that we might as well just kind of do it with the main one, and both of these auctions are actually happening on the same day. They're on the 9th of September, whereas the other ones are on different days, so it does kind of make sense to put them together. So these auctions, the buyer's premium is 26.4%, and like I said, they're both on the 9th, but one starting a little bit earlier than the other. This first one only has 26 lots, and then the other one has about 300. So as I said, this is a UK based auction, so if you're outside of the UK, or even in the UK, I guess you want to have a look at import or shipping charges, at least import export, any CITES kind of things like that. Yeah, so obviously look at all the terms and get yourself acquainted with how it works. So yeah, I think we'll just kind of crack on really and have a look what we've got here. So this is the acoustic part of the auction here. So we have a contemporary Baroque guitar by Paul Baker, made in England. It looks kind of decent enough. 400 to 800 is the estimate there. See if there's any other additional information. That's fairly standard. Then we have a 19th century French guitar labelled JTL, so it's a fairly standard kind of French trade guitar there, 200 to 400. Then an antique Salvador Ibanez acoustic guitar in need of restoration, 100 to 200. You do see a fair few of these about, so not uncommon. 19th century small bodied guitar labelled A. Ibanez, 300 to 500 there. Quite a nice back there in a case. Brazilian rosewood, so there's be some restrictions on that, but it's quite a nice back. Another 19th century small bodied guitar, 300 to 400 there is the estimate. Hofner Flamenco Guitar together with a Camps Classical and one other. This is pretty standard stuff, 30 to 50. 1970s Epiphone Classical Guitar made in Japan, and Vincente Tate Classical Guitar, 40 to 80, nothing too crazy there. 1968 Maton C25 Classical Guitar made in Australia, 80 to 120 pounds. Interesting early 20th century nylon string guitar in need of restoration together with another nylon string guitar, 80 to 120 there. Crafter SCT T80 EQ electroclassical guitar together with a Brunswick electroclassical and Esteve classical guitar, 80 to 120. 1960s Ibanez classical guitar made in Japan, 300 to 400 there. Then we have an unusual chamfered body classical guitar, 80 to 120. That is slightly kind of comfort kind of cut there. Andalusia AG6 nylon classical guitar, 10 to 20 pounds. 2 classical guitars include a B&M Sevilla and another labelled Ormond with a Hudson, 40 to 60. This is all fairly low tier stuff. 1970s Les Tuck Torres model classical guitar, 40 to 80 there. And 2007 Oscar Schmidt by Washburn Requinto guitar, and also another kind of Tanglewood classical there, 100 to 200. 1971 Francisco concert model guitar, 100 to 200 pounds. A Juan Hernandez Hauser model classical guitar, 800 to 1200. That looks fairly decent there. Good quality handmade classical guitar, unlabeled, 200 to 400. 1971 Jose Ramirez, Estudio classical guitar made in Spain, 5 to 700. 2001 Valeriano Bernal Maestro Flamenco Guitar, 700 to 1,000. 1966 Conde Hermanos Guitar, made in Spain, 600 to £1,000. It looks like it's been well played. 1977 Garrido Classical Guitar, made in Spain, £300 to £600. Jose Mas Classical Guitar, made in Spain. Also Durango Classical Guitar, £150 to £250. 1999 Brian Knowles Classical Guitar, made in England, £1,000 to £1,500. And 1973 Malcolm A. Home Classical Guitar, made in Vancouver, £2,000 to £3,000. That's quite a nice looking instrument there. Bit more of a close up on that. And that's it. So that is the end of the guitar bit of the sale. So like I said, very small auction. So as they're happening on the same day, we'll just go straight into the musical instrument one. So as I was saying, same buyer's premium, 26.4, finishing on the same day. So I think it's all fine to crack on with that. So a 7-string open back fretless banjo, inscribed J. Vinner, together with an interesting unknown handmade 5-string banjo, £50 to £100. Ozark 2038 5-string travel banjo, £40 to £80. Clifford Essex Windsor 5-string resonator banjo there, £200 to £400. Tenor banjo, inscribed the Clifford Essex Sharp, £50 to £100. Gold tone VB400 banjo bass guitar, £200 to £400. Early 20th century Windsor 7-string zither banjo, £50 to £100. Clifford Essex zither banjo with 8-inch skin, £60 to £100. Orb 5-string open back banjo, £100 to £200. J.G. Abbott & Co. plectrum banjo, £80 to £120. Fretless 5-string banjo with old neck and contemporary zither type banjo there, £80 to £120. Riley Baker perfected painted 5-string banjo, £150 to £250. That's quite nice looking. Clifford Essex Sharp 5-string open back banjo, £80 to £120. 5-string zither banjo by and stamped A. Weaver, £80 to £120. A filed mandolin made in England, £300 to £500. Colin Kendall double neck mandolin bouzouki made in England, that's quite interesting, £200 to £400. Slightly unusual. 19th century Neapolitan mandolin by and labelled C.F. Kissinger or Kisslinger, £40 to £80. JHS vintage Gordon Giltrap D-Day mandolin, interesting, £70 to £100. Countryman Pro F-style mandolin with fitted gator hard case, £200 to £400. No lots, so that's good, that one's gone. Contemporary lute bearing a Luke Ernst refurbishment label, £300 to £500. Aria AM20E electric mandolin, together with a vintage VUV2 electric ukulele there, £60 to £100. Clifford Essex the Gambler tenor ukulele, £80 to £120. Emerald Guitar Company Synergy carbon fibre harp ukulele, that's pretty mad, £500 to £800. I'm sure there'll be a few people interested in that. Clifford Essex the Gambler soprano ukulele, £60 to £100. Ashbury Resonator ukulele, £80 to £120. That's kind of interesting. RZA Uke solid soprano electric ukulele, £60 to £100. Clifford Essex the Gambler concert ukulele, £80 to £120. Clifford Essex Nelson resonator ukulele, £100 to £200. Viola baritone ukulele, £80 to £120. Oscar Schmidt OU57 concert ukulele, £60 to £100. Two Tink ukulele upcycled tin ukuleles with soft bags, £50 to £100, together with another Lanikai ukulele. Filed rosewood Citon made in England, 300 to 500. Contemporary luthier made Citon type instrument, 100 to 200, bearing a maker's label to the inner back. Interesting. 2013 Oakwood 7-course Citon, 800 to 1200 pounds. 2010 Helmut Reingans band sitar, 50 to 100 there. Contemporary oud made with Gamel Gorges, 50 to 80. Contemporary hurdy-gurdy by and branded Mugino, interesting, 300 to 500 there. Contemporary boat-shaped 6-string hurdy-gurdy, 300 to 500. Contemporary medieval style 5-string viol by and labelled Michael Foulds, interesting. Seagull Enfield Merlin mahogany stick dulcimer, 50 to 80. Contemporary Paul Baker Gittern, 100 to 200. Interesting to see a Gittern. A contemporary handmade 5-course Baroque style guitar, 100 to 200. Don't know if it's no label. Turkish Kumbus by and branded Zainel Abidin. That's interesting. 80 to 120. Haven't seen one of these at auction before. Clifford Essex Banjarine. That's interesting. 100 to 200. 5-string zither Banjarine by and branded A. Weaver. 200 to 400. 1970s Bandora bearing a label to the inner back. And inscribed Mr. Walton's Bandora made by Robert Hadaway at Gayton in Norfolk, 1973. That's interesting. 2 to 400. Interesting back. 1985 Neil W. Brooke Bandora with stained maple back and sides. Carved head. Interesting. 2 to 400. 2020 Paul Baker Renaissance Orfarian. That's interesting. 4 to 800. You don't see those all that often. Made for David Wade. There you go. 1995 Colin Kendall Irish style bouzouki, 3 to 500. Contemporary Celtic harp unbranded, 2 to 400. Dulcimer by an inscribed Christophe Toussaint, 2 to 400. Paul Baker medieval symphony instrument, 2 to 400. Contemporary dulcimer by and labelled Bob Stuber with something with another handmade dulcimer there, 60 to 100. Good contemporary 14-string theorbo lute unlabelled, 4 to 800. Shame there's not another picture of that. Old ukulele bearing trademark label Jose Alvarez and an unlabelled Neapolitan mandolin, looks kind of alright, and another ukulele, 30 to 50. Ashby Gibson F-style electric mandolin and a Stag electric ukulele, got 60 to 90 there. Late 19th century 5-string banjo inscribed GOP, is it Matthew, yeah, 150 to 300. 4-string unnamed banjo, 120 to 180. Vega 4-string banjo neck, 30 to 50. Neapolitan mandolin, circa 1900, by and stamped Mario Casella, 100 to 200, looks in fairly good condition. Early 20th century German theorbo, 17-string lute, 150 to 300. Circular piano stool, interesting, 20 to 30. Soprano Satina 120 bass accordion with a Visimio 120 bass button accordion, 20 to 40. English concertina with 48 bone buttons on rosewood, 100 to 150. Always say these do well. Pear-shaped mandolin with decorated spruce table, 30 to 50. Old rosewood German concertina in need of restoration, 60 to 100. Neapolitan mandolin and another mandolin labelled Neapolitan patent, 60 to 100. Good Neapolitan mandolin by and labelled Vinaccia. That's interesting. Strong looking fluting there, or vaulting even, vaulted back. That'd be nice. Well, that could do quite well if it is actually a Vernaccia 2 to 400. It's interesting. Fender 5-string guitar-shaped mandolin with a ukulele as well, 80 to 120. It's quite a nice looking mandolin. Good Lacanol & Co. English concertina, 48 buttons, 4 to 600. That seems about right. Contemporary oud labelled Gamil Gelges, 100 to 150. Good contemporary lute unlabelled, 2 to 300. Antique lute in need of restoration there, 150 to 250. Guzheng Chinese zither harp there, 3 to 400. I do like how diverse this auction is. Scarletti 48 button piano accordion there, 180 to 240. Kumele ukulele, 300 to 400. Paul F. Summers, the Wakiki ukulele there, 3 to 400. Rare late 1920s Gibson Uke 1 ukulele there, 700 to 1,000. I mean, the prices of some of these ukes are really pretty crazy. Fine and rare Martin 3K ukulele there, 1,500 to 2,000. The really market is going a bit crazy. Keach long scale ukulele labelled Keach, 150 to 200. Rare A.D. Vicky and Son long scale style 4 ukulele. That's interesting, 800 to 1,000. Let's have a bit of a zoom in on that. That's a interesting looking instrument, really nice, interesting workmanship. George Thornbury Dallas E Banjolele there. That's an interesting one, 6 to 800. George Thornbury Dallas E Banjolele again, 6 to 800. Windsor Model 3 Banjolin, 2 to 300. Early 20th century Slingerland Banjolele, 80 to 120. 5-string zither banjo with rosewood inlaid resonator, 100 to 150. Fine, very fine and unique Bacon and Day Montana silver bell, NE Plus Ultra number 6 banjo. Okay, interesting. Very fancy. 5 to 7,000 pounds there is the estimate. That's a serious banjo. Hofner style mandolin with sunburst finish, 500 to 750. Fine and rare Gibson F5 style mandolin from 1957, 5 to 7,000. I'm sure that's kind of popular. Windsor Model 4 banjolin, 80 to 120. Framus electric mandola, 300 to 500. William Lang Paramount style A banjo, 6 to 800. Good contemporary ukulele by and labelled Blackbird, 6 to 800. Contemporary Romanian bouzouki labelled Ozark, and also contemporary Blue Moon mandolin, 60 to 100. Gibson UB2 banjo ukulele, 750 to 950. Gibson TB2 tenor banjo, 800 to 1200. 5-string banjo circa 1890. Stamped artist banjo, 300 to 500. Vega white lady style banjo, 700 to 900. Fusion semi-rigid banjo case with double Gretsch ukulele gig bag, 20 to 40. Large quantity of lute sheet music, 10 to 20. Country and 5-string zither banjo, 40 to 80. Good 4-piece Sona drum kit. Also 2 Boozian Hawks Ajax snare drums. So that's interesting. 3 to 500. 4-piece drum kit. Boozian Hawks Ajax snare. 30 to 60. Good contemporary English ukulele by and labelled Robert Aldington, Great Missenden. 120 to 160. Good contemporary Renaissance 7-course lute by and labelled B. Thomas, Hereford. Interesting. 250 to 450. Good Grilletti Professional B22 Electronic Musette Piano Accordion, 300 to 500. Good contemporary fiddleback mahogany case clavichord by Hugh Goff of London. Interesting. £300 to £500. That would be good entry into the clavichord world. Interesting early 19th century French mahogany square piano, 2,000 to 4,000 there. And this one is inscribed El Epine, Boulevard Montmartre, Paris. Interesting. Curious. 2,000 to 4,000 there. Good mid 19th century mahogany grand piano by and described Boiselot et Fil, Marseille. 300 to 500 is the estimate. Zachary Taylor electroacoustic tenor ukulele, 300 to 400. Victorian mahogany and rosewood duet adjustable music stand, 300 to 500. Victorian mahogany duet music stand, 500 to 700. Fine Cocos wood flute by and stamped Wolf and Fig, London, 1500 to 2000. Fine Cocos wood flute by and stamped Ruddle and Rose, 2000 to 2500. Good Selmer Model 26 gold lacquered alto saxophone, 1500 to 2000. CG Con Limited crossbar baritone saxophone, 1000 to 1500. 8 various musical instrument cases, interesting, 20 to 40. Odyssey metal flute there, 30 to 60. 2 old rosewood flutes with 8 silver mounted salt spoon keys, 200 to 300. 2 old rosewood flutes with 8 nickel keys, 100 to 150. Interesting old rosewood flute in the form of a truncheon, and that's pretty cool, 200 to 300. Old stained maple wood bassoon, unstamped, 150 to 300. Old bugle by and stamped A.F. Matthews and an early 20th century antler hunting horn and various other wind instrument parts. Bit of a mixed lot, if ever there was one. That's 25 to 50 is the estimate. Old Blackwood 8 key flute, 20 to 40. Oscar Adler Mark Nickerkin soprano recorder in A. Also some other different piccolo head and some other bits, 40 to 80. French 6-hole single key duct flute, 40 to 80. 3 various French flageolets stamped JTL, 50 to 100. Some other bits in there as well. English boxwood flageolet with 4 keys stamped Dual England. The duct flute keys recorder is a rare instrument with 4 keys and flageolet style spacing studs. The small first hole and a large fifth hole are characteristic of improved octave flageolets, 60 to 100. Interesting, it does look quite curious. Selection of 9 various brass, tin and white metal whistles, 40 to 80. Martin silver plated alto saxophone, low pitch. Also with a Regent brass saxophone and Hawks and Son Blackwood clarinet, 80 to 140. Old Italian wooden core anglais by and stamped A.M. Bottali Milano, 60 to 100. Pair of H. Selmer M series clarinets A and B flat, 5 to 700. 3-case clarinets, Boozy and Hawks Regents models, 40 to 80. 4 various case silver plated flutes, Boozy and Hawks, some other ones as well, 60 to 100. Selmer ebonized alto clarinet with aluminium horn, 200 to 400. Selmer Mod 26 silver plated tenor saxophone, 300 to 500. Good brass tenor saxophone by and inscribed on the bell, made by CG Con Limited, 250 to 450. Old brass French horn by and inscribed Alliance, J.R. Lafleur and Sons. And also another French brass horn, 60 to 100. Yamaha SV 1110 electric skeleton violin, 100 to 200. Contemporary Bavarian style electric eccentric violin, together with a Maidstone violin that's been painted blue, 50 to 100. 20th century Bavarian violin with lion's head, 100 to 200. Amadeus 1 electric violin, 100 to 200. Contemporary English boat-shaped pochette by and labelled Richard Phipp, August 1997, 50 to 80. Small early 20th century viola there, 3 to 500. We're not these early ones we won't get many pictures of, unfortunately. Eastern European violin, circa 1930, 30 to 50 pounds there. Interesting old Stradivari copy in need of restoration. And some other violins, 3/4, 80 to 140 was it? So, yeah. Stroval's concert model fiddle with single string and brass horn, 50 to 80. Early 20th century double purple violin labelled Mahogany, 100 to 150. Late 19th century Bavarian violin with carved lion's head. And another German 3/4 violin, 100 to 150. Contemporary Czechoslovakian viola, and it seems like a skeleton violin and some bits, 60 to 100. Two good double violin cases and a single oblong case, 60 to 100. Interesting old 7/8 violin in need of extensive restoration and some bow cases and a small child's bow, 50 to 100. This is an interesting looking violin. Shame that we can't really zoom in that much, but looks like probably some kind of interesting older German violin, so that's an interesting lot. 19th century violin with tapered fingerboard, 50 to 80. Hard to really know what's going on with some of these pictures. It really would be handy if they could put in some more. Mid-19th century transitional violin, 100 to 150. 19th century violin in need of restoration, 60 to 100 pounds. Does look potentially interesting, but very difficult to see what's going on there. Interesting 19th century violin in need of restoration, 100 to 200. Late 19th century violin, branded Viome. Two other German violins, 120 to 180. English violin by and labelled Thomas Gull Barlow, 80 to 120. French violin labelled Jacques Leclerc, 100 to 200. French violin labelled Breton Brevet, 150 to 200. French Lebert School violin labelled Francisco Lupo, 200 to 250. Late 19th century 3/4 violin stamped Turner, London, below the button, 200 to 250. Early 20th century German violin, 100 to 150. Early 20th century German violin labelled Joseph Guarnerius, 80 to 120. Box of various stringed instrument bits, 50 to 100. Three old violins in need of restoration. Also some necks and scrolls, 2 to 300. Interesting looking kind of violin that. 5 good quality gouges and chisels, one branded Stanley, 50 to 80. Nice knife. Box of various instrument making tools including planes, 50 to 80. Box of assorted Strad magazines, 50 to 80. Interesting and rare matchstick violin and a Stentor child violin, 200 to 300. 19th century German violin, 200 to 250. Small mid 19th century viola there, 200 to 300. It's 37.9, that is pretty small. And not many images either. Early 20th century German violin, 2 to 250. German violin, circa 1920, 150 to 200. Early 20th century German violin, 200 to 250. Good late 19th century French violin in need of restoration, 2 to 400. Would be nice to see what the back looks like. German viola labelled Hermann Dolling, 2 to 300 there. English viola by and labelled Robert Rayburn Smith, Cambridge, 100 to 200, made in 1988. Interesting F-holes. Small German viola labelled Jacobus Steiner, 100 to 150. Late 19th century German violin, 150 to 200. German violin circa 1900, 50 to 80 pounds, see estimate. Early 20th century German violin, 200 to 250. Early 20th century German half-size violin, 50 to 80. Good fitting oblong case made by M.A. Gorge, 60 to 100. You know that's going to sell for like 300 plus because they're very popular. Good early 20th century rosewood fitted coffin case, 100 to 150. These can sometimes go okay, they're nice examples. Good early 20th century mahogany fitted case, 80 to 120. English composite viola labelled Edward Forster, 4 bows and a contemporary viola from Shanghai, 150 to 300. Potentially interesting. Early 20th century violin, unlabelled, 150 to 250. Interesting 19th century violin stamped brown, London, below the button, 2 to 400. Interesting 19th century composite violin in need of completion, stamped Murdoch, 200 to 400. Early 20th century violin, indistinctly labelled, 50 to 80. Interesting looking F-holes. Alta Meister Geigen, a whole load of other books as well, 60 to 100. Etienne Vatelot, Le Archet Français 1 and 2, 100 to 150. Paul Childs, the bowmakers of the Cap family, and Arthur Bultitude book, 100 to 150. Various books about musical instruments, 40 to 60. Stradivari Legacy, there, 70 to 100. More Stradivari Legacy, 140 to 180. The Hill book there, 80 to 120. Here's Otto Mockel, De Kunst des Geigenbaus, 50 to 80. Golden Age of Violin Making in Spain, 200 to 300. Early 20th century oak and ebony banded 6-division bow case and a load of other different bow cases, 60 to 100. 12 various sized nickel mounted contemporary bows within a bow case, so 60 to 100. Whole load of 20 various bows there, 25 to 40. Another lot of 20 bows, 25 to 45. 4 nickel mounted German bows, 3 stamped Seifert, 80 to 140. 2 German nickel mounted violin bows in need of restoration, 80 to 140. Interesting early English silver mounted violin bow by a member of the Tubbs family, pinned head, 300 to 500. French violin bow of the Malines school, unstamped, 700 to 1000 there. That's the estimate. French silver mounted violin bow stamped M. Lapierre, 350 to 450. Nickel mounted violin bow stamped C. Thomason, Paris, 400 to 600. Nickel mounted violin bow stamped Victor Fatigue, Paris, 400 to 600. Silver mounted violin bow unstamped, 200 to 300. German silver mounted violin bow by and stamped R. Weichold, 400 to 600. French JTL nickel mounted violin bow stamped Lupo, 50 to 80. Silver mounted cello bow by and stamped J.E. Vickers, 150 to 250. English silver mounted cane viola bow by and stamped L. Cocker on the handle. We saw a load of these at Marty recently, 200 to 300. German silver mounted cello bow by and faintly stamped Alfred Noll, 200 to 400. French silver and nickel mounted violin bow by and stamped Charles Bazin, France, 150 to 250. English silver mounted violin bow by and stamped Roy Collins, 300 to 500. There is the estimate. English silver mounted viola bow by and stamped John Walker, 300 to 500. Let's carry on. German nickel mounted violin bow by and stamped August Edwin Praja, 300 to 500. It's got an ivory sail reference. Silver mounted violin bow stamped Charles Bruguière, 400 to 600. French silver mounted violin bow stamped Emile Houchard, 800 to 1200. English silver mounted double bass bow by and stamped P.W.B. Bryant, 1000 to 1500 there. Good silver mounted double good French silver mounted double bass bow by and stamped E.A. Ushafi, 3000 to 5000. German silver mounted violin bow by and stamped R. Weitkold. Also another nickel mounted violin bow there, 400 to 600. German silver mounted violin bow stamped Candy, 3 to 500. Interesting violin labelled Stefano Caponetto in Catania, 1500 to 2000 there. Could really be absolutely anything from anywhere, that, to be honest. Good violin labelled Joseph Hill, 4,500 to 6,500. I think that's Gardiner Houlgate friends are getting a bit carried away here. Good French violin by and labelled H. Emile Blondelet, 800 to 1200. So got a certificate there. Interesting French violin labelled Ludovicus Guersin, 1000 to 2000. It's quite a nice looking back to that. Nice looking instrument. Good English Tertis model viola by and labelled Wilfred G. Saunders, Nottingham, 2000 to 3000 there. Good English violin by and labelled William Walton, Maker, Preston, 1000 to 1400. French violin labelled Luthier Moderne Louis Poisson, 500 to 700. Receipt there. Interesting Hardanger fiddle there, 500 to 800. Interesting late 18th, early 19th century violin, bearing a repair label from 1953, grafted neck, and has its original scroll, 3 to 500. Uh, 19th century violin bearing an indecipherable label, 14 and quarter, 3620. Okay, 250 to 350. Interesting looking back on that. Definitely curious. There's some interesting things in this auction, it's very true. English viola by and labelled J.T. Geaver, Leicester, 1980, 300 to 500. 19th century 5-string viola, 300 to 500. That's quite interesting. English violin by and labelled Gordon Campbell, Hereford, 2 to 300. Interesting old viola, unlabelled, one piece, back, 4 to 6,000. Interesting scroll. Interesting violin labelled Jacobus Steiner, 1500 to 2,500 there. Interesting violin labelled Bernard Fent, 800 to 1,200. Good English viola by and labelled Paul Bowers, Newark, 1985, 1,000 to 1,500, with a bow. Interesting 19th century violin labelled Luigi Carlos, 400 to 600 there. Interesting looking back. Interesting early 19th century violin labelled what is that? Andrea Castagneri. Interesting violin, circa 1820. Scroll carved with an extra turn, 600 to 900. Interesting early 19th century English viola, unlabelled, 1500 to 2000. Yep. German violin by unlabelled Matthias Neuner, 300 to 400. German violin labelled Johann Christian Ficker, 200 to 300. English viola labelled William Forster, 1000 to 1500 there. 19th century violin, possibly Scottish, unlabelled, 300 to 500. Interesting violin labelled Bernardo Calcani, Cremona, 700 to 1000. Neumann Hornsteiner violin, circa 1880, 350 to 550. Mittenwald violin, circa 1890, 300 to 400. Interesting English violin of the Ferber school, circa 1800, 800 to 1200 pounds. English violin of the Ferber school, circa 1780, unlabelled, 400 to 800. Interesting neck there, need of restoration. Yeah, I was going to say violin retains its original neck. That's interesting. That's kind of uncommon, so that would be an interesting kind of Baroque classical kind of setup. French musical violin of the Collin school, 800 to 1200. Tyrolean violin labelled Carlo Bergonzi, 400 to 600 there. Dresden violin labelled Joseph Guarnerius, 400 to 600. Bittenwald violin, circa 1890, 500 to 750. Good French violin labelled Mermelot, Paris, 2000 to 3000 on that. Fine French violin by unlabelled Paul Blanchard, 4 to 6000. Fine English violin by unlabelled Joseph A. Chanot, 6 to 8000 there. So certificate, that's quite a nice looking violin. 1821. Violin is sold a certificate of authenticity from John Dyke Stringed Instruments from 1972. French violin by unlabelled J. Didlot, 6 to 800. German violin by unlabelled Arnold Voigt, estimates 800 to 1200. Good English violin by unlabelled Thomas Howells, 1200 to 1600. French violin by unlabelled H. Clotel. That was me just knocking over the microphone there. 4 to 600 in a rage. Early 20th century German violin, 300 to 500. Let's hope that the microphone is still working. Yeah, I think so. Late 19th century French violin, labelled H. Sylvestre, 500 to 750. German violin of the Berlin School, 400 to 600. German violin circa 1890, 250 to 350. Good French violin in need of further restoration, labelled Joseph Guarnerius, 600 to 800. English viola by unlabelled Harold Lester Stiles in Bath, 400 to 600. Late 19th century Mircore viola, unlabelled, 300 to 500. Interesting. Late 18th, early 19th century violin of the Clot School, 600 to 900. Okay. English viola by and labelled Robert John Raymond, 250 to 450. English violin labelled W. Glenister, London, 800 to 1200. Italian viola by and labelled Antonio Lecce, Cremona, 1923, 1000 to 1400 there. Good French viola by and labelled JTL, Geronimo Barnabetti, 1000 to 1500. Interesting early violin with old repairs, 1000 to 2000. Good Child's French violin by and labelled Grandchamp Pair, 300 to 500. Good Mittenwald's child violin, circa 1880, 250 to 350. Late 19th century child's violin, 200 to 300. Harley Benton contemporary electric stick double bass, 150 to 200 there. Early 20th century French cello in need of extensive restoration, 100 to 200. Good English cello circa 1830 from the Kennedy Workshop, 1500 to 2000 there. Early 20th century German cello labelled Antonius Stradivarius, 800 to 1200. Contemporary cello labelled Collins, 1987, 1000 to 1500. Good Dresden cello circa 1890, 1200 to 1600. Cello circa 1890, 800 to 1200. Cello circa 1900, unlabelled, 1500 to 2000. Neuner and Hornsteiner cello circa 1890, 1200 to 1600. Good modern Italian cello by and labelled Dario Aguzzi, 6000 to 8000. It's Mr. Aguzzi back again, certificate of the maker. Good 18th century English cello by Joseph Merlin and stamped J. Merlin, 5000 to 8000 there. Contemporary small double bass labelled the Stentor, 1950, 250 to 350. Good 19th century double bass, 1500 to 2000. Late 19th century German double bass, 300 to 500. German double bass circa 1890, 1000 to 1500. Early 20th century German double bass, 300 to 500. Good 19th century French double bass, 3000 to 5000. Good and interesting 19th century double bass, 1000 to 2000. Good French double bass model after Viome of Paris, 2 to 3000. Fine French double bass attributed to Leon Bernardel, 4 to 8000. Fine double bass ex Roy Babington, made by Albert Volkmann of Schonbach, circa 1910. Double bass has been owned by professional musician Roy Babington since 1967. Interesting. A well-kept secret about this bass is that it was played by Roy and heard on the famous Hamlet cigar advert jingle. This fact and further provenance about the bass have been written up in an article by Roy and can be seen in one of the images posted on the internet websites. Interesting. Good few pictures there. 10 to 15,000 is the estimate, and that's it. That is that auction. So pretty good, kind of diverse auction, as always with Gardiner Houlgate. So definitely worth having a look if you're interested in musical instruments in general. Few interesting things here and there. Few interesting instruments and of the plucked and bowed variety. Definitely kind of interesting. So yeah, check it out and see what you think. So I'll put a link in the description as always. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Ciao. Many thanks for tuning in to the Musical Instrument Investigator. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, then please like, subscribe and turn on notifications, and watch out for the next video coming soon.